This is Pop Culture Confidential, and I'm Christina Yerling Biru. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm really happy to have you here, and I'm excited for this week's guest, Clint Bentley, the writer and director of one of the most beautiful films of the season, Train Dreams. The film is nominated for 4 Oscars, including Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Picture. And this week, Clint took home Best Director and Best Feature at the Film Independent Spirit Awards. We talked about how the film came together, about the character of Robert Grainier, a deeply anchored performance by Joel Edgerton. We talked about grief, memory, Nick Cave, of being a tender man in a changing world, and much more. Clint, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. It's good to see you.
Thank you. I'm so moved by the quiet power of this film, and watching your filmmaking from Jockey to Sing Sing, it reminds me of the beautiful line from this film, "The world needs a hermit in the woods as much as a preacher in the pulpit." So thank you for that. What was it that first drew you to this story?
There were a lot of things that felt very relevant in reading the book to the world that we live in today. And things like technological progress that's leaving a lot of us behind, and the environmental degradation that we're party to, the terrible treatment of immigrant populations that we're seeing so much. But at the bottom of it all was this story of Robert Grainier and the life that he leads, and watching this person go through the world and not really having a full understanding of like what it all means, and what our place in it is. And it just seemed like such a universal experience that this character was going through.
Yeah, and he's such a layered character. He's a man of his time. He doesn't
Yeah.
show much emotion. He maybe has no grand plans, but he has such a profound. He loves so profoundly. I thought that was beautiful. How did you approach the character?
Yeah, I think just try and represent a good person, not somebody who always does the right thing. He certainly makes mistakes. One big one that haunts him in the beginning of the film in particular, but like just trying to represent somebody like I think a lot of the people that I grew up with and who helped raise me. But then I think Robert Greinier is the type of person that actually the world is filled with, and you look around, the world really runs and operates because of these people who are just doing their best, and working their jobs, and trying to provide for their families and be there for their show up for their friends, and who aren't like, making a lot of noise. And so we were really just trying to represent somebody like that, just a good, honest person.
I'm so happy we got to see it, because when you tell, I can't imagine selling it to a studio and saying it's this guy who's just living there, his
He
normal
doesn't
life,
say
his
much, and he
spiritual
doesn't
life.
do much, and he loses everything. And yeah.
How did that happen? I mean,
Well, luckily we had the book to fall back on, so it was a bit of a cheat code there of just like having this beautiful novella that was,
yeah, it's such a great.
by one of our great American authors that was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. Um, so that helped. And then by the time we went to, I had a relationship with Black Bear, who financed the picture. And and by the time we went to them, we had a script, and so that was, they were very taken with it.
Yeah, going back to Grenier, I mean, your father, I understand, was a jockey. He lived out of a suitcase, from
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
did
Yeah.
he? Is your dad in Robert?
Yeah, certainly. My father is, my uncle is, my grandmother is, my mother is. I think like, but in particular, there's a certain type of man that Grenier is, and one who's like, in one way, like he's somebody who, has these very deep emotions and these deep feelings, but doesn't really have the words to communicate them. And I was raised by a lot of men like this, but at the same time, like, there was there's a certain type of masculinity that I think is very natural um, and doesn't get shown a lot, but there are a lot of men like this that are very tough and very strong men and very, like have no shortage of quote unquote masculinity, but at the same time are very tender and very sweet. And that was something that I think I really wanted to put out there as well.
Yeah, the scenes between Robert and his daughter feel especially moving to me. It's such a beautiful depiction of being content, of being completely present in the moment. And that can't be easy to capture on film. How did you do it?
I think just creating, the hardest thing in making a film is to try and create space and naturalism, because so much you're always kind of like catching up. You're like a dog chasing a car, like,
Mhm.
trying to like make your days as a filmmaker. And everything has to be scheduled down to the moment, and we've got to be in this location at this time. We've got to have 50 people here and blah blah blah. And so it can be very difficult to capture magic or contentment or quietude, and but that said, like, that's the thing I'm striving for a lot of times in scenes, is just to try and like get all that noise away from whatever is happening between the actors, and to give them space to just be and to just exist, and to try and have life come out of the scene. And Adolph, I'm also very lucky to work with my cinematographer Adolfo Veloso, and he's very helpful in kind of crafting that, because he has such a small footprint. He operates the camera himself. It's a lot of times handheld. And so those scenes with the that you're responding to there, and asking about, um, my son was, I think, 2.5 or 3 when we were making the film. And so I knew that, like, a kid that age, you can't, there's only so much they're going to do that you ask them to do, and they have a lot of their own opinions. And so really with those, we were just trying to like make things feel like games that Joel or Felicity was playing with those 2-year-old twins that played Kate. And again, just try and like make them feel like they're existing, and then kind of shape them, kind of I'm just trying to be a sheepdog and kind of like guide them towards where I want them to be.
And Adolfo, you mentioned him. I understand that he uses 99% natural light. For
Yeah.
if you don't understand that as the audience, why is that so extraordinary?
I think partly it's so extraordinary because, if you think he's not shaping light and putting in artificial lights and putting in bounces and flags and things like that a lot of cinematographers do. And so the fact that he's able to get such powerful imagery with just natural light is really phenomenal. And then on top of that, like what he's able to do, um, the fact that, like, again, going back to that freedom that I'm hoping to give actors, and the fact that he like can work in such a way to allow me to do that with the actors, but then I also have the confidence that he's going to get this very spectacular imagery and these almost photographs, um, without hemming the actors in to like be like, okay, you need to walk over here in this line and say it facing that direction. It's really spectacular. It's phenomenal.
So I have to ask about Nick Cave, who's a big idol of mine. He wrote the theme to your co-wrote the theme for your movie, and he's spoken so
Yeah,
openly about grief and helped many of us through what he said and his work.
me as well. Yeah.
Could you share some of the conversations maybe about how you guys talked about this song and
We did talk about those things. Uh, and yeah, he's done. I think publicly, I'll say, like, I've gotten the same thing that you have, and I think that a lot of people have, where having experienced deep grief and loss, um, a lot of things, not only that he's written, but that he's sung songs about, sang songs about, but then also like the Red Hand Files. If
exactly?
nobody's on the email list, they should be on that. It's some of those beautiful writing, and has helped me. process things. What we talked about specifically with this song was trying to speak to what is in the film and get the essence of it across without being too didactic about it or too obvious about it. And some of the imagery he brings in is from the film. Some of the imagery that he brings in is his own. Some is from the book because he loves the book and it didn't make it into the film, like with Elvis. Um, and and I think like Bryce says this a lot, and it really like clarified it for me that that line, I can't begin to tell you how that feels, is just like something that
Yes.
like really encapsulates so much about the character and about the film that
And
is so
about
succinctly.
Granier and about everything he's
Exactly. Yeah,
going
yeah.
through. Yeah, yeah, it's really
Yeah.
powerful. You've also mentioned that Stalker is a
Yeah.
real cinematic inspiration for you. I thought that was fascinating. Tell me how his visual language, Tarkovsky, has influenced you.
Yeah, it would be hard. I mean, I could spend all day talking about like
Of
how
course.
how I've been influenced by Tarkovsky, but like there's something that like Adolfo and I spoke particularly, and Mirror was a big one for this film because of the way that he's treating memory and recreating moments and recreating like memories of moments rather than the moments themselves. That was a big thing that Adolfo and I spoke about. But I don't know, there's just something about the way that Tarkovsky moved a camera. There's something about his lens choices. There's something and the film stock that he used.
And how beautifully both of you work with nature.
Well, and that's the thing is like it treats nature with the respect and the depth that it deserves,
Yes.
and it's not just treating it as a pretty picture or a backdrop for like what's going on with these characters, but as a living and breathing force, which it is. It's something that we live alongside, not on top of. And so there's all of that. I also like, I think some people like, same is true for Kurosawa, where I think some people think of them as like these stuffy filmmakers, and they're so, both of them, and Tarkovsky in particular, like played around with different film stocks and
Mhm.
and different approaches, and were so experimental and so like, um, yeah, like free with the form, and that's very inspiring.
You mentioned memory. Well, tell me your approach to memory in the film.
Trying to take it in trying I really wanted to approach memory as something that like it's always with us, every moment we've experienced is with us in this moment, and like um you ask a question and I'm trying to think of an answer, but I'm also thinking back to set, and I'm also thinking about something my wife said, and blah blah blah, on and on. Like those things are always like with with us in whatever particular moment we're in. But then also it changes over time, and your memories soften, or they harden, or they evolve with you as a person, um, in a way that something that we found in the edit with Parker Laramie, our editor on this film. As Parker and I were working through it, we started using alternate takes of things when he remembers it, rather than just showing you what you already saw from a scene. We're using things, a bit different than what you saw before, as to try and get to that, I don't know, to try and access that feeling when you look back on something and it is shaped by time.
So finally, what's your favorite memory from the making of Train Dreams?
Oh
You
my
have one?
gosh.
Can you pick
Yeah,
one?
I have so many. It's hard to pick one because it was such a joyful, like, and free in its own ways, creative process. But one that's like so special was, we were looking for the location where they would have their first kiss. It was this beautiful moment in the book, and then in the script where Grenier and Gladys would have their first kiss, and because of the way that it was scheduled, and because we had to do it next to another location, and when we scouted, it was just in this kind of like this area under some trees that was not very pretty, and it was
Not a
it was
good
fun.
place for the first kiss.
Not a good place for the first kiss, but we're like, you know what? And I talked to Adolfo, and we were like, all right, we'll figure out a way to like kind of make the best of it, but here's what we have to do, and it is what it is. And then and it was just like this kind of grassy area under some pine trees. And then we came back 2 weeks later to actually shoot the thing after we had scouted it. And I got there that morning early to like go and look for, where to do this and try and find the best spot and make, lemonade out of lemons. And I walked out there and this grassy area had exploded with all these yellow
Oh
flowers.
my God.
And yellow, there are these beautiful, it's this scene where they're kind of like, under those trees and it just the whole field is covered in these flowers. And it was a complete surprise and just like felt like such a blessing. Yellow was also the color that we had chosen with Malgosia, our costume designer, and Alex, our production designer, that we had chosen for Gladys, to represent her across the film. And so it was just like I was just so blown away and then was just
Meant to
like so
be.
yeah, it totally was. It was such a wonderful blessing.
Well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful film.
Good to see you, Christina. Cheers.
Thank you so much to Clint Bentley. If you haven't already seen it, make sure to catch Train Dreams on Netflix, and good luck at the Oscars. And thank you so much for listening. You can subscribe to Pop Culture Confidential wherever you get your podcasts. And get in touch with me. I'm on Instagram and X at Christina Biro. See you next time.